Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take a whole mountain of research and give you the essential knowledge, the shortcut to really understanding a topic.
And today's topic is one of those things that I think happens to everyone.
Oh, absolutely. You've been there. You're just, rubbing your leg or your arm. You look down, and there it is, a black and blue patch, and you have, zero recollection of how it got there.
Right. No trip, no fall, just a mystery bruise. And while it's easy to joke about for a lot of people, seeing that can be genuinely concerning.
Yeah, the immediate question is, wait, is this a sign of something serious?
And we should just say this right up front. The good news from our sources is that for the most part, the answer is no.
Okay, let's unpack this because that's huge. While, a big fall obviously causes a bruise, the vast majority of these unexplained ones are not a sign of a serious underlying condition. But they are a signal.
They are absolutely a signal. That little purple patch is your body trying to communicate, maybe even shouting about inadequate nutrient levels.
So our mission for this deep dive is to pinpoint exactly why you might bruise so easily. We're going to identify the two main vitamins responsible. And this is the really interesting part. We'll get into the common medications that interfere with them.
And then we'll detail the, almost overwhelming amount of food you need to actually fix the problem. It's a lot.
Let's get into it and get you that knowledge for stronger capillaries.
Okay, so first things first. What even is a bruise? We call it that, but in the medical world, you'll see terms like ecchymosis or contusion.
Right. So at the most basic level, what are we actually seeing when we look at that black and blue mark?
You're seeing an internal bleed. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but that's what it is. A bruise happens when the body's tiniest blood vessels, the capillaries, get damaged.
And these are the superfine microscopic tubes right under the skin.
Exactly. And they are fragile, so when they get broken or ruptured, even from a tiny bit of pressure, they leak red blood cells out into the surrounding tissue.
And that's the color. That's the black and blue. It's just blood pooling where it shouldn't be.
Precisely. And then your body's cleanup crew, the white blood cells, they rush in to start the repair process. The changing colors you see over a week or two, that's just your body breaking down and recycling those old blood cells.
So while it can look alarming, it's usually just a temporary repair job. The key takeaway here is that it signals an internal weakness that, can often be fixed with the right approach.
Right. So the body is talking. We just need to understand the message.
Okay, so let's decipher that message. What's at the core of this?
When you really dig into the sources, two things just keep coming up again and again as the root cause of easy bruising.
Let me guess. Vitamin K and vitamin C.
You got it. Deficiencies in one or both of these are far and away the most common reasons for those mystery bruises.
Okay, so let's take those one by one. Vitamin K. The research often points to this as the single most common cause. Why is it so important?
Well, think of it this way. Vitamin K is the activator for your body's emergency response team. It's essential for what's called the clotting cascade.
The clotting cascade. Sounds complicated.
It is, but the concept is simple. Imagine a long line of dominoes that have to fall in perfect sequence to seal off a broken blood vessel.
Okay.
Vitamin K is the chemical trigger that flicks that first domino. Without enough K, your clotting factors, these proteins in your blood, are basically asleep on the job.
Ah, so a tiny vessel breaks, and because the dominoes don't fall fast enough, it just keeps leaking. And that's your bruise.
That is a perfect way to put it. Now, if vitamin K is the emergency response trigger,
then vitamin C must be about prevention, right?
Right.
Like the structural integrity of the whole system.
Exactly. Vitamin C is the fundamental structural engineer. Its main job in this context is to synthesize collagen.
And collagen is the stuff that gives everything strength and structure. Skin, joints.
And crucially, the walls of your blood vessels.
So if the capillaries are like the bricks in a wall, vitamin C is a mortar holding them all together.
Perfect analogy. When you're low on C, that mortar is weak and crumbly. The vessel walls are fragile. It takes way less pressure to cause a rupture.
Which explains not just the bruising, but the other symptoms the sources mentioned, like spongy gums or even spider veins. It's all a structural problem.
It's all connected. And the sources also mention a few other things that can contribute, like fatty liver or low bile.
Right. Why is bile so important here? That seems unrelated.
Well, vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin, just like A, D, and E. To absorb it from your food, you need to break down fats properly.
And that's what bile does.
That's what bile does. So if you have a liver or gallbladder issue that's messing with your bile flow, you could be eating all the right foods, but the vitamin K just isn't getting into your system. It's an absorption bottleneck.
That is a really important connection to make. Okay, this next part is what really, genuinely jumped out at me from the research: medication interference.
Oh, this is huge because we're talking about medications that millions and millions of people take every single day, often without thinking about the side effect.
Let's run through the list. I mean, the obvious one first: blood thinners like warfarin. That makes sense.
Of course, that's literally its job to prevent clotting. So easy bruising is an expected side effect. But then you get to the really common stuff.
Like NSAIDs. So ibuprofen.
Yes. NSAIDs work by blocking certain enzymes, but a side effect is that they also have a subtle impact on your platelets, which makes it a bit harder for blood to clump together and form that initial plug at an injury site.
So if your vitamin K levels are already kind of borderline, popping an Advil could be enough to tip you over into easy bruising territory?
It absolutely could. Then you have statins, the cholesterol drugs, they're on the list. High-dose steroids like prednisone.
And I saw orlistat, the weight loss drug, which makes sense if it's blocking fat absorption.
Exactly. It ties right back to that bile and fat-soluble vitamin issue we just talked about.
But the one that surprised me most was antibiotics.
That's a fascinating one. It's all about your gut microbiome. See, certain good bacteria in your gut actually produce a form of vitamin K for you, known as K2.
So when you take a broad-spectrum antibiotic.
You wipe out the bad guys, but you also cause a lot of collateral damage to the good guys, including the little K2 factories living in your gut. This can cause a temporary but very real drop in your vitamin K levels.
That's vital information. And then, of course, there's just age.
Right. It's a simple mechanical issue. As we get older, that protective, fatty layer of tissue just under the skin naturally thins out.
So there's less padding.
Much less padding. So a little bump that you wouldn't have even noticed in your 20s now goes straight to those fragile capillaries and causes them to break.
So if age and medication are already working against us, we need a really powerful defensive strategy.
A massive one. Which brings us to the most shocking number in all of this research.
All right, let's pivot to the solution. And this is the part that I think requires the biggest mindset shift for people. Our sources point out the average adult eats, what, maybe 1 cup of vegetables a day?
If that, maybe 1.5.
But to get enough vitamin K and C to really fortify your blood vessels, the recommended amount is staggering.
It is. The sources, Dr. Berg specifically, state that adults need approximately 7 to 10 cups of vegetables every single day.
7 to 10 cups. I mean, my first reaction is, how is that even possible? It sounds like a full-time job just chewing.
It's a brilliant question because it sounds impossible, but it's about being strategic. You know, you can't just sit down to a giant pile of raw broccoli.
So what's the strategy?
You compress the volume. You could blend, say, 3 cups of spinach and kale into a smoothie in the morning. It disappears. Then a huge salad for lunch. That's another 4 cups of greens right there.
And then a couple cups of steamed vegetables with dinner, like Brussels sprouts or something.
Exactly. And speaking of those, you really want to focus on the vitamin K powerhouses.
Right. So where do we get the most bang for our buck?
The research is really clear on this. It's the dark leafy greens. We are talking about things like Brussels sprouts, kale, spinach, and parsley. Loading up on those is your #1 defense.
Okay, but when you tell people to eat that much kale, doesn't the question come up, wait, isn't too much vitamin K dangerous? Won't it cause blood clots?
It's a critical safety question, and the sources are definitive. The answer is no. While, a therapeutic dose of a vitamin K supplement needs to be medically managed, it is practically impossible to eat enough vegetables to cause a dangerous, unwanted clot.
So your body knows how to regulate it when it comes from food.
It does. And you get all these other incredible anti-inflammatory benefits on top of it, so there's no danger there.
Excellent. Now, that brings us to the second, and maybe more complex, part of the fix: the gut connection. So even if I'm eating my 7 cups of kale, why is my microbiome so important?
Because the vitamin K story has a second chapter that happens inside your gut. The vitamin you get from those leafy greens is mostly a form called vitamin K1.
Okay, K1, the raw material.
The raw material, exactly. It gets delivered to your gut, where your microbiome acts like a little conversion factory. Certain beneficial bacteria take some of that K1 and transform it into vitamin K2.
The specialized product. Why do we need K2?
K2 has a totally different and crucial job. It's like a traffic cop for calcium. It tells calcium to go into your bones and teeth, and more importantly, it keeps it out of your arteries and soft tissues.
So if you have a gut issue like celiac or Crohn's disease, your little conversion factory is offline.
Precisely. Even if you're eating all the kale in the world, you're not efficiently making the K2 you need, so you're more likely to bruise, and you're missing out on that long-term protection for your bones and arteries.
So on top of the mountain of vegetables, we need to feed the factory workers.
That's the perfect way to put it. The actionable step here is to bring in fermented foods, things that actively nourish those good bacteria.
So we're talking about the classics, sauerkraut kimchi.
Sauerkraut kimchi and especially natto, which is a fermented soybean product. These foods contain the bacterial species that are champs at producing K2,
Right.
so you're directly supporting that crucial conversion process.
That was incredibly insightful. Okay, so to summarize the key takeaways for everyone listening, if you're seeing those mystery bruises, your body is giving you some really clear feedback.
Remember those two core vitamins. K for clotting, making sure those dominoes are ready to fall, and C for strong vessel walls, the mortar holding it all together.
And the solution requires a volume of food that is, way beyond what most of us are used to. That target of 7 to 10 cups of vegetables daily is the real goal.
And finally, don't forget that your gut microbiome is your secret weapon. It converts the K1 from your food into that critical K2 that does so much more than just help with bruising.
So what this all really means is that frequent bruising is more than just a cosmetic issue. It's a visible, external sign of an internal nutritional imbalance. It's signaling a potential vulnerability in your system.
And here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. We talked about how K2, made in the gut, keeps calcium out of your arteries, and how older adults bruise more easily because their skin gets thinner. So if the state of your skin so visibly reflects the status of your vitamins and your ability to clot, how else might that foundational nutrient status, especially K2's role in directing calcium, be silently impacting your long-term circulatory and bone resilience as you age? Something to consider next time you reach for that giant salad bowl.